Hey, welcome back. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to put a center oil pickup in a A-plus gearbox. First thing I'm doing here is actually removing the cover that holds the existing pickup into the gearbox. Scraping off the gasket. Okay, now we're inside the gearbox here. I'm removing the two screws that actually hold the actual screen into the gearbox. Once you remove that, you can take the hose out and kind of leave the hose there. The screen stays in there until the lay shaft comes out. Okay, here I am removing the speedo gear. And what we're going to do next is we're actually going to take the speedo drive cover off. That's a series of 7/16 bolts, and then you have some 1/2-inch nuts that actually hold the little bracket for the radiator mount onto the front of the gearbox. There's me taking off the 1/2-inch bolt. No, that's the 7/16 that I'm still working on. Now those drive covers actually, or not the drive cover, but the actual drive cover actually has a tendency of sticking real heavy. So you'll fight with it for a while to get it off. There I am removing the bracket. Here you see me kind of prying on it with a screwdriver. I initially had to stick a thin knife in there and kind of get it broke loose, and I could get in there with a screwdriver. Okay, now we're back at the top. I need to look at my gearbox. Looking at this video, it looks like I got a crack in that one side. I'm hoping that's not the case. I'm hoping that's just in the video itself. Okay, removing the double roller bearing cover. I think they call that the motion bearing cover, maybe? I don't know. I don't know, to be honest with you. Okay, there we are removing the lay shaft, the lay gear. Then we're working out the screen. The screen's a little fiddly, you kind of got to work on it. Okay, now when you put the center oil pickup in there, it's a little fiddly to get in there, and you kind of have to work it with the lay shaft. I found the best way to do it is kind of get the lay shaft in there and then kind of just pick the lay shaft up a little bit. You can see I fought with it for quite a while. I'm just sitting here just kind of fighting with it and stuff, because that lay shaft's a pain in the butt to get in anyway. But the best way I kind of found to do it, like I said, and you'll see me doing it here in a minute, is drop the lay shaft in and then just kind of pick the lay shaft. Yeah, you just kind of got to pick the lay shaft up and kind of work it in there. It's a little fiddly. Like I said, you just kind of got to fiddle with it. Okay, here, I just kind of get fed up with it and yank it out. Start all over again. Okay, there it is. Lay shaft's in now. Then you see me kind of lift up the lay shaft and kind of work that thing into the position that it needs to be in. There it goes. It just dropped in. Okay, lay shaft going back in. Trying to get the key back in now. What ended up happening to me with the key is I ended up actually pushing the reverse gear shaft back into the transmission, so I had to kind of get back here behind it and kind of push it back out. Just fiddling around with it. Okay, finally got it in. Here we are putting the cover back on. There's a little shim that goes in that cover as well. And that cover has a little indentation for that little keyway, so you just kind of slide it over top of that little keyway, and then whenever you tighten it up, it kind of sets everything in place. There is a tolerance on that cover too. I don't remember exactly what it is. You can look it up in your manual, but generally you have to check the tolerance to make sure there isn't any gap in there. I didn't check this one only because I took it out and it was already set. I think the tolerance is pretty wide anyway. I think it has to be anywhere from like 0 to 4 or something like that. Don't quote me on that though, because I'm not 100% sure. Okay, here we are back. After I put that back on, what are we doing now? Okay, we're putting gaskets on. Put that in place. That's the oil pickup tube. And we're going to put the cover on, same thing. I use the Cold Gentry Classic Mini DIY approach to when I put gaskets on. I always just lightly coat them with a little bit of Permatex so they'll stick and seal well. Put the bolts back in. Okay, now I'm putting the nut on the end of that bolt, basically. So when you remove those two bolts, there isn't nuts on them because the actual screen has the nuts attached to it. So you will have to acquire a lock washer and a nut for that to make it stay in place. Luckily, I had a big old box of bolts back here that are nuts that actually one of them fit it. So. Let me tighten it up. And checking to make sure everything's spinning freely and we're not hitting anything. Okay, now we're on the front. Lubed up my gasket, put it on. Here's my neighbor come to visit me. He almost always has to come in and see what I'm doing every time I'm working on the car. Putting the 7/16 bolts back in. There we are, tightening it down. Now these bolts here, they don't get a very big torque. They only, I think the manual torques them at 12 to 14, I think is what they're supposed to be torqued at. Putting that little bracket back on. 3 half-inch bolts and then that little screw or nuts. I don't know why I always get nuts and bolts confused. I constantly always do that. There I am looking for the bolt. There's a nut. See? Tightening those up. Torquing them down. Okay. Then we're putting the gear back in for the speedo. Gasket, gear. And I do know you'll see me actually put this on here with the cover, or with the little fork. I do know that fork is upside down, and I had changed it after I stopped recording. I realized it was upside down and I changed it after I stopped recording. There it is. Thank you. Like, subscribe, share. See you in the next one.